uh, Ellie Cole. Welcome, Ellie. It's great to see you, and I'll just introduce you. You're very successful athlete and a three-time Paralympian. And tell me if I get this wrong: 6 gold, 4 silver, and 5 bronze. Is that correct? Have I got the numbers right?
That is correct.
Great.
10 points.
Stuff. Great stuff. We wanted to have you on because we wanted to highlight, I think, your swim in Rio, which was the 100 backstroke, which is a gold medal for you in the 100 back. And obviously, you've got plenty to choose from, and it's fantastic. But we thought we'd let you highlight that one. And so, probably for me, it's about getting a little bit of a picture of, this was your 3rd Paralympics. You had Beijing and you had London, so you had those experiences. What was the preparation lead up like for Rio, and in particular for this event? What were some of the things that, some of us wouldn't know, some things that might bring us a little bit closer before we watch the footage of the race?
Yeah, so I guess the preparation basically started, am I off mute? Yes, I am. I think the preparation for me started from when I was a young kid. It was a lot about what Kieran was saying, training and practicing all of the good habits. If I think back over my swimming career, I would have to say it did start when I was about 10 years old, learning how to swim and starting squad swimming. But for me, going into the Rio Paralympics, like you said, it was my 3rd games, and I was also in a similar position to what Kieran was in, where I was going in as the favorite, world record holder, Paralympic champion, world champion. And sorry, someone's not on mute.
Tim, can you mute everybody other than us?
Please? Yeah, I'll mute everybody and then turn you guys back on.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
I'm back. You're muted, Elle.
Yeah, I can unmute myself.
Right, good.
So I was going into Rio also as the favorite. I'd won the 100-meter backstroke at the London Paralympic Games, and I was also the world record holder and world champion. And so I guess I was going in as the favorite, and I did also have a lot of expectation. It was really interesting listening to Kieran's story. I could relate to a lot about what he was saying. I kind of felt like I was a little bit like Kieran Perkins, but trapped in a female body, with the inability to swim 400-meter freestyle in Speedos at a world record pace. But in a very similar situation where I did have a lot of pressure placed on me, and I actually had a very similar experience where right before my 100-meter backstroke race, I felt this overwhelming sense of panic. And I was actually in the changing rooms when it happened. So I had gone through my usual process of getting ready for the race. It's something that I'd done since I was a kid, basically followed the same process, and I felt pretty comfortable. But then I was in the changing rooms and I was getting my racing suit on, and I felt this overwhelming sense of panic. And I actually was in the changing room with a few other swimmers who were getting ready for their race. And I could hear the crowd outside. And I think that was adding to my nerves a bit, because I knew that I would be walking out there and, having my own race in half an hour's time. And so I guess I was just feeling the pressure building and building. And I actually, I locked myself in a toilet cubicle, and I was kind of going through these really negative thought processes where I felt like I wasn't good enough. And, it was really interesting. Throughout my swimming career growing up, I heard time and time again that confidence will get you everywhere. And if you're not self-confident, that you won't perform. And I felt really silly being in that toilet cubicle. Like I said earlier, I was the world record holder, and there was, I guess, no proof in the pudding that I wasn't good enough. And I was really scared, to be honest. I was really scared, and just kept telling myself that I couldn't perform, and I was completely sabotaging myself before I'd even swum the race. I realized what I was doing, and I knew that it did need to stop, and that I had to turn my thoughts around. But I remember vividly, I just took a deep breath and told myself that the feelings were normal, and that what I was thinking held no truth, and they definitely had no value to what I was thinking. So I had to tell myself that I was good enough, and I took a deep breath and just asked myself, what if this works out? And it was interesting, like those 5 words were all that it took for me to unlock the toilet cubicle and to walk out into the marshalling room. Like, what if this works out? Very similar experience to what Kieran was saying. Like, I didn't want to look back and have any regrets, and I wanted to put myself out there. And, you know, it's really hard to do that when the whole world is watching, but I did, and yeah, I won the race, so I was pretty happy with that.
So before we watched the race, I guess I asked Kieran the same question about tactics. Did you have you trained and prepared? Did you have a particular tactic to the way you raced the 100 backstroke? Was there something the way you went into it? Were you give us an insight to that?
Yeah, Rio was a really challenging week for me. One of the unique experiences about being a Paralympic athlete is that we actually are in the country in Australia when the Olympics is on. And so, you know, I got to watch Craig and Matt win their 400 freestyle, Matt win their 400 freestyle. And, you know, I got to watch the Olympic team perform before we headed over. And it's a really interesting experience, kind of sitting in your living room, knowing that you're going to be there in a month's time. I think the 100 meter backstroke was on day 9 of the 10-day event program. My first event in Rio was actually the 400 meter freestyle, and I led the 400 meter freestyle for 399 meters, and then I got touched out on the wall by 0.02 of a second, and that kind of shook me a little bit. It threw me off mentally, and it really hurt physically as well. And I guess from that moment on, my Paralympic experience unraveled a bit. I didn't stick to my race plan in the 100 meter freestyle event, and so I was kind of kicking myself all week because I wasn't sticking to what I usually did. So by the time I got to the 100 meter backstroke and it was day 9, I knew that I really had to just trust my gut instinct and just do what I knew, and knew how to swim. Like Kieran was saying, like, I've done that race 1,000 times before. I don't know why all of a sudden I was changing things in Rio. Yeah. So I decided to stick to my race plan for the backstroke. And yeah, I basically did what I'd been practicing over the last 5 or 6 years. And it's interesting, like when you watch Olympics or when you watch the Paralympics, you see so many people who go out a bit differently or go out harder than they usually would, or do throw race plans out the window, and it can actually like mentally throw you if you're in the race yourself. So it's really hard sometimes to stick to your race plan when somebody is out 5 or 10 meters ahead of you. And so I knew no matter what, under any circumstances, I had to stick to that race plan, and I did. And yeah, I did well, obviously winning a gold medal at the end.
No, absolutely. Let's have a look at it. Tim, have you got it dialed up for us, mate? Tim?
Tim and his great internet.
It's just loading. Oh, jeez.
Are you on the NBN or ADSL?
I was going to say, we're right.
What are they? I thought dial-up was the latest. No, look, I'm on the NBN, but yeah, okay, let me close that and let's try and start it again. And of course, when you restart it, it goes first time. Hang on, here we go.
Here we go.
Let's hit it.
This is the women's 100 metres backstroke S9 final. High hopes for the Australian Ellie Cole, who will swim in lane 5 after an equal quickest qualification time with Marquez Soto from Spain. A strong start from Ellie Cole as anticipated. Hannah Aston, the youngster from the United States, also got away well, but now that the swimmers are up and stroking, Elizabeth Smith has the best start early. She's taking it out as hard as she can, but don't discount the experience of Ellie Cole. She knows how to swim this distance, and she is building into the race here, starting to set the pace a little, but it's quite even across the pool, and there's not going to be much in it as they touch at the 50.
certainly isn't at the moment, but Ellie Cole is the person to beat. This is Ellie Cole's race to lose, really. She touches ahead of Marcus Soto, with Aston touching a third overall and Wang a little off the pace. 35.57 at the wall after Cole, the only swimmer to go sub 34 seconds. Marcus Soto, though, trying to launch an attack on Cole, who leads at the moment by a slim margin over Aston, but she's got to battle Aston and Marcus Soto. Ellie Cole is just ahead.
Aspen and Marcus Soto are both challenging here, but Ellie Cole, she's eking out the slimmest of margins. She's bringing it home as strong as she can. Ellie Cole has the gold surely from here. She touches in Paralympic record time. Ellie Cole from Australia ahead of Marcus Soto from Spain, and Aspen from the United States gets the bronze medal. Unbridled joy from Ellie Cole.
Very good.
Thanks.
Brings a smile to the face, doesn't it?
I actually haven't watched that race before.
Oh, well, there you
ever,
go.
So
That's awesome.
new experience for everybody here.
Yeah. Well, look, what we'll do is we'll get on to some questions. I think that'll be really good. So let's see what, if you've got questions for Ellie, and as Tim said, let's jump into the chat room.
Yes. Hello.
Hi.
It's just a question. I'm not really sure, but did you go to King's Swim? I was like,
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I went there as well, and then I left a couple of years ago. So how
We
was
have
training
something
for
in
you?
common. How was training with what, sorry?
In King's Swim.
So I learned to swim through the King Swimming program on the Mornington Peninsula, and then I started squad swimming there. So one thing that I do really remember about the King Swimming Club was training for the country championships and how everybody got dressed up, and it was a real community feel, which I feel sometimes, you know, when you're more of an elite swimmer, you forget about a little bit, kind of forget about the grassroots swimming. So I make sure I still keep in touch with everybody from my swimming club. The friends that you meet and that you train with will can be friends for life. So yeah. Anyway, I remember everybody used to look at us because we had those bright green caps. I don't know if you still swim with those bright green caps anymore.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, what other sports did you do when you were younger besides swimming?
That's a good question. So for me, it was a bit more difficult playing sport because I was a leg amputee. I found like sport was quite difficult for me. Swimming was one of those sports where I could get into the pool and I wouldn't have to wear my prosthetic leg without the limitations of a prosthetic anyway, because they're really uncomfortable and can be awkward and just get in the way. So for me, I didn't really play too many other sports. I did do a lot of sport at school only because there was a lot of days where we could travel with the sports teams. But for me, I really enjoy parasport. So I don't know if anybody's seen wheelchair basketball, but I do play a little bit of wheelchair basketball. I did after the London Games for a few years, and it's a crazy sport. It's like one of the only sports in wheelchairs where you can flip another person over in a wheelchair and not feel bad about it. But I absolutely loved being part of a team sport and learning about how to communicate with different team members and how to think ahead in terms of like different plays and be aware of your surroundings, because in swimming, we do look at the black line a lot, and the only person that we really hear is our coach yelling at us. So it was really great playing a team sport and learning about how to work with other people to achieve a common goal as well.
Yeah. What was the first time you realized that you wanted to be an Olympic swimmer?
Thanks for the question, Mel. For me, I never really wanted to be a Paralympic swimmer. I had this thing when I was a kid. So when I was learning to swim, I was swimming with able-bodied kids. So I would swim with kids that had 2 arms and 2 legs, and I was the only athlete in the water that was missing a limb. But I was super competitive. I always have been, and I always wanted to beat all of the kids in my squad. And so that was kind of my first goal, and I would train to work towards that. And then once I started beating all the kids in my squad, I would look at the other clubs like Nunawading or at Vic Centre and try and pick a few kids from those clubs and try and beat them. And so for me, like I would always just choose somebody who was better than me. I've always loved being the underdog. And I think that's why Rio was so difficult for me. But I kind of just had this idea of self-improvement. Like every time I got into training, I would try and be better at something, or I'd try and be faster at something. And I've done that my entire life. And before I knew it, like I was good enough to make the Australian swim team. And it was just about those small daily improvements all coming together over years and years that I found myself on the Paralympic team. And then once I knew that I had an opportunity to win medals and win gold medals for Australia, like I really wanted to give that a go. And then before I knew it, I found myself to be the best in the world. So after I won the Paralympic gold medals, I wanted to do a world record. And now that I've done that, I don't really know where to go from there. Maybe basketball.
So Ellie, I'm going to jump in there because you mentioned something there, swimming, such an individual sport, but you talked about swimming for Australia. What sort of added not advantage, but incentive does that give you, swimming for your country in an individual sport?
For me, like I really enjoy, well, I remember being a kid and I remember watching, you know, Kieran Perkins, Grant Hackett, Livy Lenton, and walking around on pool deck when I was younger at swimming competitions and looking up at these gods of swimming. And I would have newspaper clippings all over my bedroom wall. Like I was obsessed with the idea of being on the Australian swim team. And then once I became an Australian swim team member, I started having young kids come up to me and saying like, oh, we've seen you swim on TV and, you know, we want to be a better swimmer because of that. And it was kind of like a, like the circle of life, like a rite of passage that I'd been through. And, you know, after competing at the Commonwealth Games in the Gold Coast last year, or 2 years ago now, actually, gosh, life's going by quickly. I had a lot of people who would message me on Instagram, say, like these able-bodied kids saying that they wanted to be Paralympic swimmers when they were older. And I didn't really have the heart to tell them that they needed a disability. But just seeing the impact that the Olympic athletes and Paralympic athletes can have on young kids dreaming big is really important to me. And like, I just love being involved with grassroots swimming, and I loved being involved in elite swimming, and I just love everything to do with swimming. So tomorrow morning, I'm going to get on a pair of Speedos and try and swim 400 freestyle and 340 now and, you know, beat Kieran's time.
What motivated you through lockdown?
So I think lockdown's been really tough on everybody. I know that particularly so on Victoria. What motivated me the most in lockdown was the idea of returning back to training and being unfit. For those of you who have ever had an extended break from swimming, I don't think it's the most pleasant first few weeks getting back into training. So I made sure that I was doing exercise every day and trying to get my heart rate up to max heart rate every day, just so that when I went back into swimming, the transition was a bit easier. Also, there was also that added pressure that Tokyo could be around the corner. But I really enjoyed exercising in lockdown. Like I had a spin bike set up in front of the TV and I watched 5 seasons of something on Netflix all while exercising. And then, you know, I challenged myself in different areas of land exercise. So it was an opportunity for me to push myself in different areas where I didn't really get an opportunity to before. And so I thoroughly enjoyed that. So if anyone wants any land exercise ideas for lockdown, feel free to message me on Instagram and I can share some of my secrets with you.
Okay, last question for Ellie. And if he wasn't such a good bloke, I wouldn't allow him to hog the questioning. But Mac, you've got a question for Ellie.
I hope you're not going to ask me how many Weet-Bix I eat, Mac.
That was my first question. How'd you know?
Yes, I know. It's only like 6.
Nice try. No, I was going to ask if you could tell us about the move to Sydney, how it's going, etc.
So yeah, thank you, Mac, for the question. So for those of you that don't know, I relocated to Sydney about 1.5 years ago. I'm training with the Campbell sisters, and it's my first experience training in an Olympic program. It's doing very, very well. I've definitely set the bar high with my training partners. I figured why not train with 2 of the best 100-meter freestylers in the world. But it's wonderful. Like I said, after I broke my world record, I wanted an extra challenge and I wanted to try and push myself harder. And so for me, training in an Olympic program has given me that opportunity. you know, it's been really tough. Some days, like, I don't know how I'm going to keep going, but every time I get to the end of the week, I'm so proud of myself. And, you know, I said to Kate and Bronte a couple of weeks ago that even in Tokyo, if I came last, which I hope I won't, but if I came last, I would be so proud of myself because of the processes that I've put in place and the journey that I've put in place, and just completely backing myself with one of the most challenging experiences of my life. It's made me very, very proud. But it's been wonderful. The traffic's driving me a bit crazy, but you know, I guess you've got to make those sacrifices. I don't have a moped like you to get around on. I probably would get hit and killed if I did that in Sydney. But yeah, I'm thoroughly enjoying it.
I'll come back to Melbourne, Ellie. The traffic down here is really quiet.
Pretty quiet at the moment.
Yeah.
I've seen pictures.
There is one question which I'm going to ask you in the chat, because it probably applies to a few people who are here. How did you balance swimming and school?
So many of you online today would still be going through school. For me, balancing swimming and school, I think it was just about having a little bit more grace on myself. You know, swimming isn't always everything. Sometimes school does have to come first. But the most important thing about doing schoolwork while being an athlete is to be really open with communication, have really good time management, and don't make swimming an excuse. So you'll find that you can be an exceptional athlete as well as an exceptional student, but the communication must come first. So teachers knowing exactly what you're up to, knowing that you're not taking any shortcuts because of your swimming, and just letting them know what competitions you have coming up. And also speaking up if you are struggling, because if you're struggling, your teachers can help you get through difficult times. Your coaches can help you get through difficult times. Everybody in your team is there to help you, but you need to make sure that you're communicating what you need or what you want, or if you're struggling, because, you know, sometimes we all do struggle, and just really, I guess, set aside time each day to get that schoolwork done.